I think people talk about fatigue in terms of it just being tiredness, and it's not. It's much more than that. It's almost like you hit a brick wall. It's definitely one of the biggies of stroke that gets overlooked.
Fatigue is something that in the community we still hear a lot about, even some time after stroke. Common reasons are things like a loss of fitness after stroke, so people are just generally fatigued because everything is a lot harder. If you're having problems moving with your coordination and your strength, it's going to take a lot more energy to be moving, and so that's going to make you tired. And the other big problem is around the fact that after a stroke, just the mental exhaustion of following conversations, of concentrating on things can really be mentally fatiguing, and that will play out in terms of physical fatigue as well.
When I first had my stroke, I couldn't find very much literature at all. And what I did talked about fatigue maybe for 6 months. I'm 13 years post-stroke, and my fatigue still impacts on me. And people who know me well, when I'm fatigued, my speech will deteriorate. Fatigue is so underestimated so far as impact on stroke survivors. You know, I've got a friend who had a brainstem stroke, and when he's fatigued, he will fall more, he aspirates.
So I found that the physical parts were draining, but just mentally having to, do all of the tasks every day, you did have to manage the fatigue and fit that nap in during the day. Otherwise, the afternoons just were really hard to get through.
Depends on the day. For me, one day I could be fantastic, no problems at all. The next day I could hit the skits and just, it's so hard to even wake up, get out of bed, actually even get motivated sometimes, even just to do the most mundane thing, get out of the bed and brush your teeth.
Initially, if I was walking, I'd walk about 50 metres and I'd have to try and find somewhere to sit down for a few minutes before I could keep walking. But just slowly over time, that got better and better. So now, I can walk a kilometre or two, as long as I'm not trying to go too fast.
Mostly in the early days, he would fall asleep at the drop of a hat, so if we went for a tiny walk, he'd come back and sit on the couch and go and make him a coffee, and he'd come back and find he was asleep, sort of knock him out really quickly. So he survives longer now, but he'll still go and fall asleep in the middle of guests or something like this at the end of the day. Yeah, but he's got a lot better.
I've built up my resilience over time, so now I look after children and I work and I drive, but I still have really significant issues with fatigue. I manage to push through each day to do the things that I need to do, but I have nothing left at the end of the day, and need to be quite selective on what my priorities are. If I push myself too hard, I crash, and what a crash looks like for me is being in bed for 2 or 3 days in total silence, unable to do anything, not even read a book or watch television, complete shutdown. So what I found is it's better, rather than crash, is to look at my diary and schedule rest days. So, at least once a fortnight, preferably once a week, I spend a day in pyjamas alone, in silence in my room, resting.
Fatigue is a sleeping giant for me. I have to deal with that every single day, fatigue. And unless I deal with it in a proper way, linked around diet, lifestyle, sleeping, not overdoing things, it can really affect me for 2 or 3 days in a row. Because fatigue, it doesn't sound a lot, but fatigue for me personally is a massive thing. It can creep up on me all of a sudden, and it can, I might have to stay in bed for a couple of days because it can be so devastating for me.